Fans.
You usually say something really cool after I do the 2 snaps. But I guess fans is what this episode is about.
We're chatting about fans today on the pod. Welcome. Thanks for listening.
Should we take a moment for this Missoni jumper?
Yes, we should, because it is a gorgeous, gorgeous jumper. Should we take a moment for my TK Maxx jumper?
We should take a moment to say, because this episode goes out on Thanksgiving, to those celebrating or interested, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Day of Thanks. I don't know. Thanksgiving's a bit controversial because, you know.
Well, let's put it this way. We watch Tom Hanks films.
We do.
We watch Team America.
Make lovely food.
And we set a place for Paul Rudd every year just in case Ashley's
potential
fishing line makes it all the way to America.
So Paul Rudd's coming to Thanksgiving.
Paul Rudd's coming to Thanksgiving. We're going to watch Tom Hanks films and we're going to call it Hanksgiving.
And we go around and we always say what we're grateful for. So why don't you just start by saying what you're grateful for, babe?
I am grateful this year for this Missoni jumper.
Are you?
Yeah, because it is incredible.
Do you want to know what I'm grateful for?
What are you thankful for?
My fans.
And that.
Did you see?
And that, dear listeners, is a segue
into this episode. So who have you ever been a huge fan of?
My biggest gesture of fandom is to have attempted to copy the haircut of Liam Gallagher when I was about 20, 21, a university student anyway. And if you've noticed my hair, it doesn't lend well to that straight cut. So I did sit with perming solution and all sorts of haircutting tricks to and I used to straighten my hair in order to be a bit more like Liam Gallagher.
Why is it like if you have curls, you want straight hair? If you have straight hair, you want curly hair? It's like...
Well, a few years later when I started modelling, I realised that actually my hair could be my strength. But nobody had curly hair then. Everybody was using straighteners.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's the 90s.
It was the 90s, man. And I'm glad it's not anymore.
Yeah.
What was your biggest gesture of fandom?
Well, I was a huge fan of Paula Abdul growing up. I loved that she did lots of different dance styles in her music videos. And it was her and Janet Jackson that I would like take the music and choreograph too. And I was the ultra fan. And I remember reading a magazine and it said you could write to Paula Abdul. So I did. And I got back a registry form for her fan club. I just wanted a headshot. With her signature on it. And I was a bit gutted. But it didn't stop me from loving, Paula Abdul and everything that she stood for.
And we both went on to meet our
yours went really well.
Heroes. Yeah.
Yours
Mine was really great.
Well. I was there.
You were there. It went really well because of you, really. Ultimately,
Go on.
You are quite useful in these situations as a famous person. So if you are the husband of a famous person and you do happen to bump into the person that you're a big fan of,
you idolize.
It often helps to have her knocking about. We were on the Eurostar.
Yes, going to Paddy.
Obviously. No one goes to Antwerp, babe.
No.
No. So we're on the Eurostar. We're going to Paris.
Yes.
And we're looking for somewhere to change Willow, who's like 1 at the time.
Yeah.
It was Valentine's
baby.
Day. We were going up and down the train looking for somewhere.
We were desperate.
We noticed a woman pointing, saying there's a 4-seat next to us. So we walk through. And as we walk through, I realised the woman
we're on the table changing the baby.
I did the best double take ever because I'm walking in and I nod to the woman to say thanks very much. Looked across the table and tucked in the corner there was Liam Gallagher sat with her. I've then done the tightest nappy ever put on a baby.
Were you squealing on the inside?
While you're looking at me going, yeah, I know it was him. I saw him earlier.
Yeah.
I'm going, how did you? Anyway, so Debbie, who's with Debbie, he's now, I think they're married now, or at least they're getting married. And she knew you.
We had a mutual
friend, Hayley, who was actually at our wedding. And so I just thought, you take a breath, and having been in the world of fame or been around you in particular, that just being polite is the best way to approach it.
And we were chatting, and Liam's starting to make some comments on Willow's little reindeer shoes.
I just wanted to say, I'm a massive fan. Lovely to meet you guys. Have a good trip, because you regain your dignity, and that's a nice thing to say. You don't pretend you haven't seen them, because that's weird. You don't completely gush over somebody because, you know, they're not at work. So that's weird as well. So I always find it respectful when someone comes up to you and tells you something like what you mean to them. I think it's a really nice way to be
a fan
of somebody.
Sure.
And he just became really chatty. He was like, "Oh yeah, nice one, man." And he was interested in Willow's little shoes, wasn't she?
Keep going.
And then he says, "Yeah, no, because I've seen you getting on the train." I said to her, "Oh, that dancey girl's just got on the train." I'm like, "The dancey girl.
That's me.
My wife is the dancey girl." This was around Got to Dance time, so he was obviously a huge fan.
I'm changing my bio as of now to the dancey girl.
Yeah.
But that was epic because I mean, I knew Oasis, I knew Wonderwall, like they were huge songs when I was in high school, and then meeting you was like a refreshed love for Oasis and the Gallagher brothers and the music that they make, but especially Liam. So this was like an ultimate fandom moment, really.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And he was and he was lovely. He was really nice, and it went really. It couldn't have gone better. A nice bloke, as you'd expect him to be. I probably wouldn't have wanted to meet him before. I wasn't actually interested in meeting him because for me, he's like this mythical figure that you kind of like look up to and enjoy him on stage. Off stage, you expect, you trust that people are sort of normal people and maybe he wouldn't be that bothered. But he just was a really nice bloke.
He's a great fan of mine.
And a massive fan of the wife, which probably helped. And I've never been so happy and excited to change a nappy.
Oh, he is brilliant. I do love Liam.
Yeah, he's great. And you also got to meet your childhood idol. Did it go as well as that?
No, it didn't.
No.
It didn't exactly. I'd been doing Got to Dance in the UK for about 3 years. 3 series of Got to Dance, and then they were taking it to the States. It was called Live to Dance, and Paula Abdul was on board, and I remember having to go for a meeting to sort of audition for my role on the judging panel. So it was me and her and Travis Payne, brilliant dancer and choreographer. And at first it was brilliant, like every day, doing these long days sitting next to her, auditioning people. And it took a long time for me to find the guts to be like, do you know what? Like, I was one of your biggest fans. And she really enjoyed that moment. And we kind of had a share. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that. That's so cool. I was like, oh my God, okay, had the moment. So the series continues, and we're at the semifinals, I think it was. And there's a lot of big groups on stage. And of course, these shows they're expensive, and a lot of money was being spent. And I think a lot of choices that were being made meant that even more money was being spent. And it came down to this moment on live television. And we had to decide, the host on live telly was going to throw to us judges to say who was going to go through to the next round. It was like the last person that was going through the big moment, the semifinal. And they're going to throw to Paula, but the producers had come up to her during the commercial break and realized that she was adamant that she was going to put through two different acts. But they're like, Paula, we don't have the money for this. We cannot do two acts. Wow. And so they realize that she's not going to change her mind. She's adamant that this is sort of her show.
Live, so
she wants to do it. So then they come over to the table next to me and are whispering in my ear, listen, Kim, we need you to do us a solid. Like, we can only afford to send one act through. When the host comes back from commercial break, he's going to throw to you on live telly and you are going to pick one act. So I'm like, okay. Boom, we're back to live telly. The host is like, all right, blah, 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 blah. We're going to go to Kimberly to tell us who's through. And the daggers I could feel of Miss Paula Abdul looking at me. I was like, oh my God, am I really going to do this right now? But I did. I chose the one act that I felt should be going through. And that changed the course of our relationship forever. So after that, I could tell she was pretty upset, and I didn't see her after the show. And usually we would start the show sort of hand in hand, walking from the stage upstage to downstage, from back to front. But from there on out, for finals and everything, she did the walk by herself. She wouldn't walk next to me.
So she never spoke to you again?
No, she basically never spoke to me again because of it.
Wow.
I know. It lasted one series. It kind of ended in flames.
It ended after that. Well, I'm not surprised, to be honest.
So I was a bit gutted. I was really excited to work together. We both done a lot in dance, and I felt like it was a really good pairing. And I really expected it could go much differently than it did.
You're no longer you are no longer at each other's Thanksgiving table.
No.
That is a shame.
I mean, you never know. Maybe we'll run into each other on the street and everything will be just fine again.
Do you remember that time when I put one through? Oh, I just walked under the bridge.
Oh, God.
There's and then there's the Annie Lennox one as well. That didn't go so well for you as well.
It didn't go well, this one. So they say never meet your never meet your idols.
Never meet your idols.
And I have met some, like Missy Elliott. That was a dream. She's the reason I sort of went into wanting to move to LA and do music videos in the first place. And to work with her was just unbelievable and amazing. However, doing a charity photo shoot in London, having just finished, and I was on my way out, and Annie Lennox was just coming on her way in. And it was a moment where she was coming through the front door, and I was just about to exit and was just like met with Annie Lennox. Like, what? She's just incredible. And
what
as
do
a
you
kid,
say? What's your line, babe?
as a kid, like, I loved watching her music videos. And I was like, oh my God, I loved you when I was a kid. And she said, way to make a girl feel old.
Wow.
And she was not happy about it.
So
and I crumbled in front of her. I'm sorry.
So
I'm
true.
so sorry.
Never meet your heroes.
It's true. But you know what? I always remembered that. And then I was like, if that ever happens to me, you can't act like Annie Lennox.
Yeah.
And now that I'm getting a bit older, there are many moments that kids are coming up to me and are like, I loved you when I was a kid. I'm like, thanks.
They're not all kids either, are they, babe? Some of them are adults. Some of them have kids of their own and they liked you when they were kids.
This is true. And now I know, because of that moment, to take it graciously. They mean well.
Don't do a Lennox.
Don't do a Lennox.
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, don't do a Lennox.
Don't do a Lennox.
Or just get older so that Lennox feels more comfortable.
Yeah. I could have reworded it, but I was put on the spot. I didn't know that I was going to have that moment.
You, like you say, you get in that position. That's going to happen. You do age. It's life. Sorry for being slightly younger than you are. Yeah. Most of your fans probably are younger than you are as well. That's sort of the nature of fandom to a certain extent.
I'm sure she's a lovely girl.
P. Diddy was different though, wasn't he?
Oh, Diddy was about it.
Yeah.
Diddy, my other fan.
He is a super fan.
Man.
Let it be known that Diddy is a super fan, along with Liam.
Yes,
of the Dancey Girl.
Yes. I mean, it was MTV Movie Awards, I believe, and it was one of our big comeback performances with When I Grow Up, and I was out for blood with When I Grow Up. I had my new haircut, a little blonde pixie cut. Debuted the leg. I'd been working out, lifting weights like crazy, so there was some strength and control ready for this performance. And going out there and you see Beyonce and Jay-Z and Chris Brown and Rihanna and like loads of your peers in the audience, and we were like having it. And I was giving it everything. And when I was on such a high when it finished and I went off stage, and P. Diddy was standing there and he took me to the side and he said, you know what? That performance from you was a 10 out of 10. I tell you, I don't say this to many people, but you are a 10 out of 10. And I'll take that moment and live with it for the rest of my life.
That's good, because it kind of segues us nicely from being fans to having fans, as Diddy is clearly a super fan.
Such a fan.
Clearly. Because
call me Diddy, we can catch up anytime.
Steady on, Diddy.
Well, not like that, but hello.
Ultimately, we are providing a service here for people who have decided to become famous. And it's not about being fans.
The fame game, thank you very much.
It's not about being fans. It's about how to have fans.
Yes.
So,
I can tell you how not to have fans.
Okay. Okay. Should we start with how to not have fans?
Well, listen. So.
Listen.
Listen.
Right. Listen.
Listen.
Okay. If you're not already listening, start.
So in the dolls, there came a time where blogging was a thing. Like my MySpace numbers were massive, right? I had so many fans on MySpace.
So many
if
fans.
they still counted, I am such a huge
Positively
superstar.
bedeviled with fans.
But then blogging became a thing,
Yeah.
and because we were like the first 360 deal in the music business, like becoming almost partners with the label was a thing. So blogging on our websites that was on the label's site was like something that we were asked to do quite.
But I mean, let's
consistently.
Let's rewind just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little bit
Yeah.
to go back to. I mean, we'll get to blogging.
Sure.
But let's do the glamorous stuff first.
Yeah.
Right. You
Glamorous.
went from being sort of
Flossy,
a little bit
flossy.
a bit for Cedric,
Yeah.
the entertainer, and a little bits and pieces, Jack Black as a popcorn kernel,
Love it.
to like Don't Ya and stampedes chasing cars in Asia and places like that.
Sure.
So you've gone
Overnight success
overnight.
worldwide.
Overnight. What do we do in that situation? What did you do? How's it work?
I crumbled. I was
You
so
crumbled.
overwhelmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think London was one of the first places we came to after the release of Don't Ya, and it was like wildfire. Everybody loved the track, they loved the video, they loved the Pussycat Dolls, and they were so
And
excited for us.
you were a moment, weren't you? You were like fandom, screaming, chasing, like old school fame that we used to see. I mean, not quite Michael Jackson level, but the screaming and all that sort of stuff.
You were on a level with Jackson.
You were those guys. Yeah.
But I remember, we would, fly over, get in our little vans to be taken to the Landmark in London, the hotel. And when we would get out of the vans, there would be people everywhere lining sort of our walkway from the van to get into the hotel. And I remember sort of getting out of the van and just being like, is this for me? Like, I don't know. It was a bit of like imposter syndrome. I just couldn't fathom that there were fans screaming for us dolls.
Yeah.
Maybe it was an insecurity because I'd only just made it into that Don't Ya video, as I'd said in a previous podcast. I was very much a potential to not have even made it in the group.
Yeah.
So I'm still maybe filled with insecurities about maybe these fans aren't for me, and maybe I don't offer enough to this group to warrant having fans. But there they were. Then from there on, we'd do performances, and there'd be huge signs for each one of us dolls and for the Pussycat Dolls, and it was massive. One of my favorite fan signs was "I'd go gay" for Kimberly K. I thought that was really clever.
I'm gonna need to see a picture of that sign.
I loved it.
If you are the person who made that sign, would love to see a picture of that sign.
It was a moment. It was here in the UK, I'm pretty sure.
Was it?
Yeah.
Go on, UK.
I know. Manchester used to be one of my favorite places to perform because Manchester was so loud. The fans in Manchester knew how to be fans.
That'll please those up in Manchester.
And Glasgow.
And Glasgow.
Really loud.
They're very partisan about their place. The Mancunians love Manchester. They'll be pleased with that.
And they love the Pussycat Dolls.
They love the Pussycat Dolls, yeah. I've experienced a certain amount of that kind of adulation and screaming, but in it's almost like contract fame. Mm-hmm. So where we met at the clothes show, it was hyped up to such an extent that because you were on the stage, you were treated like that kind of famous person. There'd be screaming, there'd be stampedes, there'd be signing body parts, and there'd be pictures and banners.
And Fans for Hot Guys is a whole other fame level.
But the great thing about that was it lasted a week. You got a good taste of it. You felt like a proper rock star, and then you get on the tube and go home.
Yeah.
And go back to anonymity. And it's really nice to have that perspective. Same with New York Fashion Week. The people who used to wait outside New York Fashion Week, some of them have gone on to be incredible bloggers, by the way, and fashion followers, but they used to sort of stand outside as we'd go in. There'd be a whole red carpet of pictures and signings and everything like that, just walking in to do a show. Mm-hmm. And then you'd all get on the subway and go home. So I've experienced that in a really nice way because it wasn't intense. I didn't have any scary kind of stories like what you've had underwear stolen and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest, I think, fandom experience we had, our Beatles moment, was in the Philippines. I guess especially with Nicole being half Filipino. We did our show. It was off the first album. We'd been touring the Black Eyed Peas for a good year or so. And then we did sort of a small tour of our own. We were headlining with Rihanna as our opening act.
Casual.
As you do. Cash.
Yeah. All these
Another
people,
fan.
All these
else?
People used you guys as a jump off, didn't they? Gaga as
Who
well.
loved a prank Rihanna did backstage. So we were in the Philippines. We just did a big, our concert show. We didn't have more music than what we had on our first album. We finished the show. We go back to our dressing rooms, and everybody is out there stomping on the bleachers, pounding on the bleachers, saying, "We want more. We want more." And us girls were looking at each other backstage we don't have any more. We have nothing else.
We've played you all our songs.
We've given you everything. So management was like, we're going to have to run. So we all run to get into this little van to try and get us out of there before craziness strikes. But the craziness begins, and the funnels of people coming from the stadium to follow the van, and they are beating on the windows, they're climbing up on the roof, they're shaking it. We were all quite scared of God, if they get in here, what are they going to do? Because it just felt like it was this electric moment that they wanted more, and they were definitely going to get it somehow.
That's slightly more than clothes show, to be fair.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Slightly.
just a nudge a level above.
But that's definitely for me and for that experience felt like the biggest sort of Beatles moment ever.
Yeah, there aren't that many moments of that. I mean, there are, obviously. There's always people who gain that level of sort of hysteria.
Yeah.
But it's still a select group of people who get to that, like, you know, people risking their lives to climb on moving vehicles and things like that. You sound like a modern day Diego Maradona, babe.
Oh, you know.
Yeah.
Go on, make the comparisons to a god. Whoops.
Yeah. But then there's a whole thing of stolen underwear as well, wasn't there?
There was I can't remember what hotel we were at. Oh, right across from Hyde Park. Can't remember the name.
Intercontinental?
Maybe,
Met?
yes.
Or the Met?
With the Nobu inside.
Yeah, I think that's Intercontinental.
Oh, loved that. Yeah, we were doing promo. Promo days were long, like 12-hour days. You're doing telly, you're doing interviews back to back. And during that time period, somehow somebody had gone into my room and gone through my suitcase and stole a pair of underwear. But then the media comes out and says that it happened to Jessica. So she's getting all this, like, you know, questions asked about, you know, somebody stealing her underwear. And I was sitting there like, it was fine.
That's my cool story.
That's my cool story.
I'm really disgusted by it having happened, but I want to at least get the story. So it not only happened to you, but you didn't get to tell the story.
I didn't get to tell the story.
You didn't get to tell the tale.
I mean, you know, he could have stolen a couple pairs of underwear. Who knows?
Yeah.
You know, he could
Might
have been an underwear stealer.
Might have been a she.
Could have been a she.
Could have been a she.
Could have been a she.
Especially if you're getting banners held up about going gay for Kimberly K.
Absolutely. But I think, you know, when it comes to fandom and that imposter syndrome, there was that moment where, you know, we did When I Grow Up, and I felt like I was coming for blood again. Like the first time around, it was Don't Ya, and I just wanted to secure my spot within the dolls.
Yeah.
Second time
So you were
around, scrapping,
Yeah.
doing anything I could to be
Yeah.
like, I'm worthy.
Yeah.
And second time around was like, now I needed to create a stepping stone.
You actually had a stepping stone upon which to dance.
Yes.
As opposed to just trying to squeeze in at the back of
Yeah.
shot and
In my
force
socks.
force them to keep you in.
So that's when the leg tilt was sort of born, and the When I Grow Up thing happened. And that sort of sent this shockwave of leg tilts around the world to the point, you know, Michael Jackson has the moonwalk. Kimberly Wyatt has the leg tilt.
You really do, babe.
You know, that is my claim to fame.
Your claim to fame.
Many
and
instances.
just before the comments come flooding in, I saw someone do it before. I can do that. Probably you can't, number one, because actually it's a little more technical than just putting your leg up in the air.
It's years
there are
of ballet
people that
people.
can do that, but in a sort of a cheated way.
Sure.
And number two, yes, of course. I mean, it's a movement, isn't it? Ultimately, people have moved before.
I pulled this movement into pop culture.
You pulled it into pop culture, exactly. So
Yeah.
a little like Michael Jackson was not the first person to do the moonwalk, but he did it on the biggest stage at that moment. He made that choice for himself, and therefore he owns the choice. You own the choice and the creation of the moment.
And then when, you know, MTV Video Music Awards comes around and we're winning Best Dancing in a Video for Buttons and Best Dance Video for When I Grow Up.
You think that could be me? That could be a little bit about you. I feel like that could be a little bit. I feel like that is, though. I'm not joking. I mean, I feel like the leg tilt is the reason. The leg tilt, I mean, everybody's dancing in those videos.
Yeah.
But that leg tilt takes it from incredible to,
Yeah.
okay, there's an iconic image there.
Sure.
Let's give them a moon man.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I felt like I was a big part of those winnings.
A big part, yeah. At least,
felt
at
like-
the very least, a big part.
At that point, I felt like I was no longer an imposter. I was a real part of this amazing movement.
Because of your talent.
Hey.
There you go. So therein lies the undercurrent of this entire thing. It isn't about your fame. It is about your talent. And if you use your talent, you might ultimately become famous and win a moon man.
This is true. And when it comes to fans, like when it all started, I didn't really know what that relationship with fans was or what it looked like. And media was, wanting to call us strippers and men takers and all sorts of craziness. As they do, it's provocative and it sells stories and it makes great headlines. I'm sure one will come out of this one right now. But what I found through blogging, going back to blogging, was creating a relationship with fans by just telling stories. And I've always loved to write. There came a point where I didn't own my own name because the label owned my name, and I still wanted to be able to have my own platform to write. So I created Beautiful Movements with Dip Dive, was will.i.am's platform for creativity. And it was here where I would do blogs and vlogs and poetry and all sorts of creative endeavors. And this started to spark almost a conversation with fans.
And you were one of the early adopters of what is now, the way it's done.
Yeah, totally.
But access fame used to be about mythical things. So the reason why those people were jumping on the buses, risking their lives, is because they think there are gods in this bus, because they didn't know any different. That was how people were presented. But we now live in an age where your famous people, you know more about your famous people than you do about your own family, because of the access we have. So it's tough to imagine the transition that was made then. And it was quite a leap for you to actually go out there and talk directly to people, because it wasn't done. And it was almost, at the same time as it being mythical one way, there was almost a fear element in the other direction. Like, oh God, I don't want to open the windows of the bus, because like you said, who knows what will happen? Yeah. You actually went out there and sparked a relationship,
really. Yeah, because I got to now know, as I would be writing stuff, I'd get hundreds of comments of people, fans, telling me their own personal stories. And a lot of time it came from, the things that they were faced with, whether it was coming out to their parents or dealing with abuse or dealing with all sorts, eating disorders, whatever it might be. And, they're pouring their hearts out of what Pussycat Dolls and me and my involvement with it was helping them overcome whatever they were going through. And I was like, oh, this is the purpose for fans, is like, for me as an entertainer, I'm making a difference in people's lives. And this sort of switched my idea of what fans can be.
I by the way, that little bit about what you do for them is my favourite bit to witness as the husband of Kimberly Wyatt.
Oh, yes.
It happened a few weeks ago at I think it was the Jubilee celebrations. A Pussycat Dolls fan came up to you, and it happened at Flackstock as well. Another Pussycat Dolls fan came up to you, and literally the integrity and the honesty and the way they just wanted to tell you how much you as an individual and what you did has meant to them as a person. I just think, wow, that is what it is.
It is, really.
That is what it is. It's like,
going out on stage every night saying, dream and believe. Like, I was wholeheartedly trying to, like, make an impact in people's lives. And when you see the reflection of that back through writings or through tattoos that say dream and believe, there's loads of them out there. Love Life, same thing, because I got it. Loads of people had it. People have tattooed my autograph. People have tattooed my face on the back of their backs.
Because we've got some of those in the questions.
Yeah. But that can be misconstrued, because I found, like, there's some TV opportunities about fans to do.
Yeah.
And I think because telly wants a bit of drama.
Telly is created on conflict. If you haven't recognised it already, a TV show only works when there is some level of conflict. And I'm not meaning fighting. I mean just two different opinions that have to somehow come to find a resolution.
Yeah.
And they looked at your situation and thought, here's what they went for the stereotype. We'll have that old mythical style fame. Here's the famous person. Here's their fans. Let's chuck them in a room together in some situations and then look at how badly it goes. But they hadn't realised that you'd created what is now quite normal.
The BM family.
A relationship. It was the BM family. So they really did edit together something that looked horrible.
Well, they were trying to sort of provoke the fans to be weird.
Yeah.
And it was like, for me,
and make you be a diva in response.
Yeah. But I was like, my perspective of that was like, on somebody else's dime, and somebody else can help set this up and bring fans together from potentially all over the country. And what a great little moment to have with these people I've cultivated almost a relationship with over many years. But yeah, then the edit, they really tried to like change that into something that it wasn't.
I was a bit gutted. I think because it was genuine,
they had a hard time.
I think everybody realised what happened there, and I don't think people make TV like that anymore. I think people have caught up a little bit.
Yeah, agreed.
And it culminates in when we did lockdown, 12:30s every lunchtime. Mm-hmm. You did your dance drills. I'd pop in. The kids would be involved here and there. And these people that you've been on this journey with for 10 years, these great people are involved. And we're chatting to them,
feel like family.
And it's become a real nice thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still, it's not like we get together on birthdays. It's not like we necessarily have a friendship type intimacy. It is something different than friendship, but it's no less special and interesting. It's a thing, isn't it?
Because I know so much about them because of the years that we've spent in each other's company in a way. I can sort of root for their wins and sort of pick them up when they feel like they're struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a really cool way to have fans.
Yeah. There is obviously the flip side of this is too much is allowing. You have to have a certain amount of boundaries, even with people who don't need boundaries, and I hope that's understood.
Yeah.
Because there are situations that occur that you have to protect yourself from,
but it can go horribly wrong.
Go on.
So there was a point within having experienced all this and being on social media and trying to find your way.
Oh, yeah.
That I realized out of the kindness of my heart, I'd like to think, if I would see a fan following me and posting lots of photos, it's like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for like the work and effort they're putting into supporting me. And so I would follow them back. But I realized I was following so many fans that I was creating this little bubble of only being able to see reflections of myself whenever I do my scrolling. And I was learning more and more about purpose work and spirituality and sort of finding a bit of a better balance within my life. And I realized that this wasn't very healthy for me to just constantly be looking at myself.
And I remember this was the time I remember having this discussion with you. Apologies to anybody who was offended by the resulting actions. But I remember thinking... it was the time of follow begging. Remember when people would gain a sense of achievement by someone following them. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, what are you actually achieving here? We're not going to show up to your birthday because we don't know you. And actually, us following you doesn't change your newsfeed in any way at all. It changes mine. But you don't see my newsfeed.
But after winning MasterChef, I did understand it to a certain extent when Jamie Oliver followed me.
When
and I
Jamie
was like,
Oliver followed you and you were really
so
excited. It doesn't change your life in any way. But I remember thinking, actually, and this was early on when everybody was still working out social media, I remember thinking... this is just an encouragement for people to want for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You shouldn't want for attention. You shouldn't want for fame.
Sure.
You should want to be creating things that people then as a result might be interested in. So
to fix the situation, I felt like I needed to do something drastic to make a real change for the better of my mental health. And I just unfollowed everybody.
Include
on
everybody,
social media.
not just fans, but everybody. All the media outlets, all the news, everything.
Yeah.
To just take a social media slowdown.
Yeah.
And the backlash was
you're dead to me.
It was punchy.
I had so many messages about me being dead to them and how much I destroyed their lives from unfollowing and all these messages. And it really did. There was a shift within sort of the fandom, I guess, I had built up. And I felt, I felt depressed after that for a while. I felt like I'd really let people down. I'd worked so hard on the blogs and the vlogs and communicating and commenting back and being a part of this fandom, this family I had created in a way. I felt like I let them all down.
I still think that was probably wouldn't do it again because why upset anybody in any way?
Yeah.
But the people who said things like she's dead to me didn't come back anyway and wanted access to you.
Maybe it was the wrong reasons.
They wanted the wrong level of access to you that nobody's entitled to. Even friends aren't allowed to just know everything about you. You get to choose what you give to somebody. The people who was part of our sort of dance drills group during lockdown didn't care because I think largely they kind of understood that it's your decision how you want to conduct your life. And it was early on Twitter as well. Like it was just, no one really knew what they were doing.
I'm only kind of coming to terms with the whole social media thing, which is a whole episode in itself, really.
Next week, in fact.
Hey.
I believe. Or maybe the week after.
But yeah, I did find, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because, I got into the industry. We both did. We arrived in a time when social media and accessibility and having sort of a relationship online with people, that wasn't part of it. So you've had all this success and then you land in it and you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
How's it going for you over there? You enjoying it?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I don't have fans like I said, I have contract level fans who are interested in me because of a project. Contract fans. I call them they're with me for a while because of a job that I'm doing, and I love that. I love it being about that.
Yeah.
I don't mind people having access to me on social media and all that sort of stuff, but I think people will notice I'm not necessarily selling anything when I'm on social media. It's just me being me. But when I go and do Britain's Next Top Model or Clothes Show or a fashion week or something, I go with my work persona, and you get the work, you get the offering, and I like appreciation of that offering. That's great, but but then there's a different side to me where on my social media I'm just me, and it's lovely to have attention and interaction and stuff, but I don't necessarily consider that I have fans as such, like you would do.
Well, what I find interesting about fame is there's sort of different levels to it depending on the choices you make.
Yeah.
So like for people that have been on X Factor or the jungle, or shows where
Someone's
the audience...
voted. So if someone's voted for you,
Yeah.
there is a sense of
Ownership of your
over
fame.
you.
Yeah.
Whereas you mentioned MasterChef, didn't you? And Jamie Oliver following you as a result.
Yeah.
But people
My
just
other
watch
fan.
that, and the people that sort of watch MasterChef, when you get approached by a MasterChef fan, it's very civil, very respectful, very nice. But I remember just after Ash had done The Jungle, we're walking around Thorpe Park, and the level, it was practically, it wasn't very nice.
It was,
The liberties people were taking with her.
It was intense.
It was intense what they expected of her. Just without even asking, grabbing her and sticking a camera in her face for a picture, because they have ownership. I voted for you. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me voting for you. And that's not so nice. I don't really enjoy that, seeing that.
Well, I feel like, because I've judged on Got to Dance for 5 series and taken the next step, I've been in dancers' lives so much that there's a bit of an intimidation sort of thing that I have with some people.
But there is with a lot of the characters that you have, not just Got
Sasha
to Dance.
Small, yeah.
Sasha Small. What is hilarious is whenever we're at an event that involves kids or anything, all the kids are terrified of you.
Yeah.
It's hilarious because you play the bad guy.
I do, and
they're all
almost
really,
never.
really. But what it creates is this level, because you've Got to Dance, you're the sort of ice queen judge.
Yeah.
People are scared of you if they're of that age, that demographic. The kids are scared of you. So actually, we walk around with quite a level of respect. People have a healthy respect for your boundaries.
But depending on if you're next to me, people don't normally come up to me.
Yeah, people know. Yeah.
However, if you leave my side,
and it's literally, we'll be in a bar. I'll go to the toilet and come back, and there'll be people gathered around the table.
that's it.
So weird.
All right, babe. What have you learned about fame today?
I think the biggest thing to note about fame is the difference between fame then and fame now. Fame then was mythical, and it was it was a bygone thing now. People would not be able to understand the level of, godlike status people had, because they didn't have access to them anywhere else but their place of work or their platform. Now that's completely flipped on its head, where people are more interested in knowing what someone's had for breakfast than they are in the latest creative offering. So your approach to fame has to be a lot more holistic about your whole life. And I think it's important to make sure you continue to allow talent to drive your public persona, rather than let what you had for breakfast take over who you are in the public space.
Yeah.
Because that can become, talent, your offering of talent is up for critique anywhere. That's the point. You put it out there, so you're as grateful for the people who don't like it as the people who do. That's what you're trying to
Turn your back
create.
on the audience is something you often say.
That's the quote, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have to turn your back on the audience. In order to conduct... We'll do that cleanly. In order to conduct the orchestra, you have to turn your back on the audience. There's lots of people have said that over the years, and it's nobody's quite sure who said it first. I heard it from Ricky Gervais, and I think it's spot on, because in order to push boundaries as a talent, you can't afford to cater to anybody but your own self, and you just have to hope that what you create gets a good response as opposed to a bad response. So don't focus too much on your audience.
I feel like what I've learned is that you got to stay humble throughout fame, because it shouldn't really be about being super famous. And although don't unfollow all the beautiful people that support you, like don't do that. But I think that the intention behind it still stands.
Yeah.
Like you got to make choices about your own mental health when it comes to how you engage with your fans. And be really mindful of what those choices are doing to you. If you're a constant reflection of your own self, you're probably not going to grow as an artist. So you've got to stay inspired and make sure that you're filling with your scroll and the choices you make of people that you follow. I hope that you make choices that makes it feel like you're learning and you're growing and you're evolving and you're not stuck in feeling like you're not enough.
And again, if you were catering to a certain extent to what fans wanted, then effectively you're you're delivering what the fans would deliver. Well,
yeah, getting stuck in the comments. Like if you post something and you're like, what do people think about it? Do they like my hair? Do they like my body? Do they like what I'm doing? And then you take note of every negative thing that's said to you. And I think that's an easy spiral for people to get into.
Your creativity and your art will now be a product of what everybody else wants you to do.
Yeah.
Now, if what everybody else wants you to do was worthy of success within your field, then everybody else would be successful within your field, but then they're not necessarily. You are. So you've got to be you and trust that some people aren't going to like it, and hopefully some people will, but you have no control over that either way. So in order to conduct the orchestra, turn your back on the audience.
Yeah, and like fame is a byproduct of what you do.
Yeah.
And the talent that you pursue.
Yeah.
And I think there's platforms that make fame the ultimate goal. Like I think TikTok is like very much about followers and fame and maybe that's social media in general. But be mindful if that doesn't like sit well with you. If you feel like you're making choices because you want to be on this trend and do this because you might be the next viral thing, that's not always the
and that's
healthiest
great.
place.
If you want to be viral and if you want to be a content creator or an influencer as such, that's a different route.
Yeah.
But if you want to be famous, which we're talking about here, the fame game, as you
the
always
fame
call
game. You're on board. Thanks. Welcome.
If you want to pursue that, you need to understand that it comes from you, not from anybody else.
And fame feels good when it's for good reasons. When you feel like you're making a difference in people's lives, fame is awesome. Well, thanks for listening, guys. We hope to see you for our next episode.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Grateful for you guys. Peace out.